Hey everyone, I'm Ariel from the channel Ariel Bissett, and we're here today to talk about The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. Today, I am going to be showing you clips from the amazing opportunity I had to meet Margaret Atwood, but also I'm going to be reviewing the book. I want to ask you about the most powerful moment in the book for me. It was the moment where I felt so viscerally there. And it's when Agnes first walks in and sees a pile of books and asks, why are these so flammable, so ruinous, right? So I wanted to ask you, why did you decide to take away the right in Gilead for women to be able to read and to write? What makes them so flammable and so ruinous?
Okay, so they got their right taken away because people have had that right taken away in history. And most noteworthily, under slavery in the United States, it was illegal for slaves to read and write.
Right.
So if you read the biography of Frederick Douglass, for instance, that moment when he learns to read and write, it's very, very powerful.
Yeah.
So reading and writing gives you access to knowledge that other people don't want you to have.
Right.
And that is why regimes try to control, censor, burn, destroy any books that might contradict them. Gilead goes all the way and makes it impossible for women to read and write, because then they can tell the women what's in the Bible, although it isn't necessarily.
Right, and when she starts to read it, she realizes this is not what I was told.
This is not what I was told.
Right.
Exactly.
Like I mentioned in that clip, that moment was the most powerful for me. When Agnes sees books, and doesn't really know what they are, but knows that they're powerful. It freaked me out. It scared me in the way that dystopians scare you. It made me nervous about, what if that was me? What if I lived in a time when I couldn't read? And as Margaret Atwood says, everything that happens to the characters in her books have happened in history before. Specifically, she drew back to slavery in the United States, where slaves were not allowed, it was illegal for them to read or write. It's always such a shame that you can't see the entire conversation that we had, because while we were waiting for Margaret Atwood on set, I had such interesting conversations with Evelyn and Amory as they talked about what it was like to read this book from an American perspective, but also from a women of color perspective. What is that like? And it was so eye-opening, really, really fascinating. I think both of these books become so much more powerful when you think about how these things have actually historically happened. They're not fake. These are not technically science fiction. They are, in a weird and twisted way, a reflection of what's already gone down. My favorite moment in my conversation with Margaret Atwood was when we got to chat about living in the wilderness.
Like you, I grew up in the wilderness of northern Minnesota. You grew up in Quebec, right?
Northern Quebec, yeah.
Yes. And I'm curious about how that shaped you as a human and as a writer, your time in the woods.
Self-reliance, knowing where you are so you don't get lost.
That's right.
In the woods. Also, no television, no movie theaters, no school, no library.
Hardly any people.
No town, hardly any people.
Yeah.
And all of those things mean that when the lights go out, you and I are probably going to be in better shape than a lot of people who have never done that.
Than us, for sure.
Right, no, that's real.
I was not that extreme, but I did grow up in rural Ontario on a well, right?
Where
So
about?
it was near Kingston.
Near Kingston, okay.
Yeah. But I know for me, it was this place where I had no distractions other than nature. And I am so grateful that I grew up there, because it was just me and my brother would just go out into the woods and we would talk and we would imagine. And I think that I always feel when I'm in a city, there's so many things that I can do. Whereas when I'm back in the country, I'm like, what should I do? There's nothing to do. I'm gonna write, or I'm gonna create. Do you think that
Absolutely.
inspired you?
That was what we did. We didn't have any of these other things, but we did have books.
Right.
And we did have, I don't know where they got them because it was wartime, but that we did have some paper and pencils and crayons. And we did a lot of drawing and writing of these little books. and storytelling.
We were so lucky that the panel was moderated by Cheryl Strayed, who's not only an incredible human being, she was so lovely and generous, and I just felt like, wow, what a quality human being. But of course, she is best known for her book, Wild. Also, Tiny Beautiful Things is incredible, and you should go read it. Hearing from both Cheryl and Margaret Atwood about the impact of growing up in the wilderness, and I getting to share that experience with them was so interesting. One of the conversations that we had was, why is change happening now? Like, why are we in a position that we can write about these books, and the Me Too movement is happening, and where does that come from? And Margaret Atwood said something really interesting.
Change is happening now because you don't need a lot of upper body strength to work a keyboard.
I actually asked her, how would Agnes respond to social media?
So if Agnes had walked into that room and instead of seeing just books, maybe she saw a computer and for some reason was able to understand what Twitter was, how do you think she would have used it?
Get me out of here.
It's that access to writing down your history, to understanding the passing of time, that is so integral to progress and change, but humanity. When we talk about 1984, one of the reasons why Winston is in big trouble and is not fitting in is because he wants to understand his place in time. He wants to understand what has come before, and he wants to know what's going to come after him, and he wants to better understand what is happening in his present. It is the act of writing that lets him do that, that lets him reflect on what he's been through, what his people have been through, etc. And in these two books, we have that. We have Offred writing her story and telling us what happens and chronicling it. Being able to write down what you're experiencing is a revolutionary act. I want to do a little review. So I read these back to back, and I think that that's how you should do them. I think that The Handmaid's Tale is quite slow. It's quite steady, but it doesn't have very many exciting points and is very heartbreaking, kind of constantly. And so it makes for kind of a depressing time. The Testaments is kind of the opposite. It is super exciting and enthralling, and there's a lot of plot, which is why I think that together they work so well together. This really establishes the world. It shows you the perspectives of someone who's trapped within it, doesn't know what to do other than try and share her story. The Testaments, on the other hand, shows what happens when people have the opportunity to do something about their situation. And I found it really exciting. I actually like the Testaments more. I enjoyed the quicker plot, and I enjoyed seeing three different perspectives. You have a perspective of someone who's completely grown up within the system and so sees it as normal. That's freaky. You see the perspective of someone who has a lot of power in this new system but doesn't believe in it, and that's stressful. And then you have the perspective of someone who lives in Canada, far away from the action, and what their perspective as an outsider is. All of these perspectives together help build a way more complex and complete world. I think one of the central lessons that I learned from this book and dystopian fiction in general is, who do we listen to and who do we give voice to? We need to make sure that we are listening to the people who need help, the people who are oppressed. I think it's really amazing that Margaret Atwood donated the money that she won from the Booker Prize to a charity here in Canada that supports Indigenous education. To me, that is the lesson in the book, right? The lesson is, we need to focus on who is allowed to tell their stories and who is getting the privilege and is being given access to reading and writing so that they can share their story and can then understand what part they play in their history, what part they play in others' histories. It's when Agnes starts to be able to read and write that everything changes. I want to give a huge shout out to the team at BookTube with YouTube Originals. They are such lovely people who are making a really cool show and are trying their best to bring in cool voices, cool booktubers, so definitely check out the whole show. Link down below.
Margaret Atwood is very much one of the literary icons of our country. It's so cool that basically our biggest author is a woman writing badass fiction. Thank you so much, Margaret Atwood, for chatting with me about your new book. If you want to check out the conversation that we had earlier about the book, check it out in the link down below. You can watch BookTube on YouTube Originals, and thank you so much again.
And thank you.
See you guys in my next one. Bye.